Does everybody have their coffee? Ryan, I think we can go and get started.
I got my coffee.
Oh, no.
One more big sip.
Linda,
Well, hello.
needs
Hey,
some
welcome
coffee.
everybody. I think we've got some people joining in. I'm Brian Keith. This is our third session in our virtual workshop this week for the Bethel Homes, North Downtown Athens planning study. So I see, in the gallery view that we kind of were talking about a little bit, I see some familiar faces. I see some new faces. It's really good to see everybody. Earlier in the year, we were there in person and we were kicking things off, and we've had to pivot in terms of that. But it's really good to see everybody again, and we hope to be there at some point here in the future when conditions allow us. But we are making plans. We do think there are some ways that we can do some things outside and otherwise, and we'll stay tuned on that. But if we go to the next slide. So I just want to again. This session, which is on exploring the civic parcels, this is really a kind of an information session, where a technical session. We want to know a lot of things that are going on, and to that end, I want to go over who's here because it's kind of relevant. So again, myself, Brian Keith, Christina Davis from Columbia Residential, raise your hand up there. Buck Bacon, and also John Williams from W&A Civil Engineering. So John was able to join us as well. Those guys are really in tune, local civil engineers, really the pulse of what's going on. And then the way we've got these, all these sessions, if you were here yesterday, you'll understand this, but I'm just going to explain for people that are new. We have presenters and we have moderators. So think of the moderator as like the hall monitor. They are keeping us in line. They're going to handle questions, everything like that. So Zoe Zhu from my firm, JHP, is over there. And Zoe's my right-hand man, right-hand gal. And then we've got special guests that are here. And our special guests are not making any kind of presentations per se, but they're here to really offer insights, to answer questions, to really comment. And to that end, this is a very informal process. So everybody feel free to chime in at any time. So, but Brad Griffin, Athens County Planning Director, raise your hand or unmute yourself. Say hello if you want. And then David Lynn, Athens County, Athens Downtown Development Authority. I see you here on the participant.
It's
Good
great.
morning. Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Blaine Williams, Athens County Manager.
I don't see Blaine on.
I don't see Blaine in yet, but hopefully he'll be joining us. Mark Melvin, Athens County Fire and Emergency Services. I don't see Mark on. Oh, there, I see him at the very bottom. Probably just joining in. Because the fire station is kind of a big part of the community, so having these guys here. So next slide. So we just want to go over a few little logistics here really quickly for people that just how we're handling Zoom sessions, also a little bit on it. So we're just asking everybody to please sign in on the chat. So your chat should be down on the bottom. Go all the way to the bottom. There's a little button that says chat. And we're going to be using that a lot. It's a way to, first of all, sign in so we know who's here. You can ask questions. And again, our moderator, our kind of hall monitor is going to be kind of not interrupting, but relaying those questions on to us speakers as we're presenting. Also, all this is being recorded, both the comments and everything. So if you don't want your messy bedroom or background to be on, turn your video off, but just know that it's being recorded. And that is so that we have a record, and also that we're going to be posting these to our website, which is very, very important because a lot of people are going to be taking this in from the website as well. And so everything we've done in the past and everything we're doing now is all on our website. And well, it's not on our website yet here, but we're recording these and then putting them up as shortly as possible, and you'll be able to view them. You can look at them in the middle of the night in your pajamas, make comments, go back through. We're going to post both the presentation and the recordings and the notes. And so if you also go over there, if you see the list of participants, you see where everybody's in. If you click on kind of participants at the bottom and a little thing pops up, you also see that there's an ability to kind of raise your hand. There's ability to kind of yes or no. Also at the bottom is a reaction. You can put, like in mine, you'll see my window now, you see a big kind of thumbs up. You can do kind of things like that. You can do that, you know, you could use the raise your hand. Hey, if you want attention, you want to be unmuted.
I just want to jump in here. I'm so sorry. I clearly will be the interrupter, which is fine with me. I was going to say, we're going to go a little more informal on this one. You enter the room, you're muted. You can unmute and mute yourself. So I don't have to unmute you. So we're just going to have this more conversation based. We had this slide in case we felt like things were getting out of hand, but I'd say that right now at 8:30.
We haven't had any, we haven't had anything so far.
So I would say just speak up, unmute yourself and chime in here. Don't feel like you have to wait to be called on. And then I think we can go to the next slide.
Yeah, well, one last thing. Just I want to say we're 8:30 to 9:30. That's our time slot. You know, we've anticipated this to be about 45 minutes. We've got an hour. Again, if we're not covering something or we don't get to it, leave a comment. We will get back to you. So this is, I just want to point out, everything you're seeing here and where we are in this whole planning process is what ifs. So nothing is decided now, right? These are all possibilities, conceptual studies. We're just throwing things on the wall. And so we're going to be asking questions and posing possibilities and posing big ideas. Nothing's decided, but what we do want to know, is it feasible? Is it possible? Is something else planned? Is something in the works? And so these sessions that we're doing really represent some of the main themes that came out of our earlier workshops and interviews and technical sessions. So go to the next slide, please. So just, again, a quick overview. This is a repeat for a lot of people that have been in the other sessions, but again, we want it in the record. So this master planning is centered on College Avenue, really is the spine of everything here. And then with that, centered on Bethel Village and the property, Athens Housing Authority property at College and Hoyt. And so those are the main bulk of it. However, this planning study, which is shown in the magenta, is really about how the neighborhood interacts and connects and links together. So the big picture process we're going through is looking at all these relationships. And with that, we're coming, the master plan, just reminding everybody, it's really a vision, a roadmap, a guide. It's not a hard and set footprint plan. It will give suggestions and ideas, but it's going to set a vision of how we want this to develop. And then the development will happen in phases. And again, the master plan, this is the first step in a long journey, right? And this master plan will be eventually approved by the Athens County Unified Government Council and Mayor. Next, just quickly remind everybody, hey, this kind of started December 2019, the SPLOST funding was approved. And with that, they approved the 2020 SPLOST funding. And in January, we had stakeholder interviews, technical interviews, and continued into February. We had, we formed a steering committee. We also conducted public workshops, both resident and community-oriented workshops. And then, you know, the world was turned upside down in the spring, COVID, Corona pandemic, and we were trying to figure out how do we keep this thing going, and we were analyzing how, and so we've shifted to the online engagement. However, in the meantime, we had a lot of technical meetings. We also did conduct some in-person resident surveys at Bethel Homes, and are going to have some at the College and Hoyt apartments. And we have online community surveys, which are still there on our website. And you'll hear our website a lot. And so, and our social media at the bottom. So our website is very, very crucial. And so what we're doing in these workshops, we will come out of this and develop draft concept plans, a draft master plan, and come back. And we'll repeat that mantra that we've said over and over again: listen, learn, design. So we will listen to comments, and we will learn from that, and we will design and come back and come back. And so October, November, probably in the more November, we will be coming back hopefully with a draft final, meaning, hey, this is the plan, but we still want final comments. And after those comments and we pick them up, we will then go for a formal adoption by the mayor and council, either at the end of the year or the beginning of next year. Next slide. Just quickly remind, because I do see familiar faces, but not I also see some new faces. So there's a lot of work that was done. We were kind of, revving the engine up here, and then before the brakes got slammed on. But we did, remember all these workshops we did with lots of stickers and mapping exercises and where things go. All that is on the website. All that is available for review and available for comment. Next slide. And so with that, we did a lot of these exercises where we start to talk about needs and wants and opportunities in the communities. And one of the key things that we're going to be doing now, and this is pretty crucial, is everybody understands that lots of needs, and that this is very common. Everybody wants everything, but we have to make decisions in the planning process about what is possible, where it might go, how do we locate things, how do we accommodate everything, and what is feasible financially, development wise. And so this session is actually pretty important in that, and just enlightening the planning team about what's going on and what might be possible, what might be funding avenues, a lot of those kind of aspects. Next slide. So with that, I said, I'm just want to point that out, that, when the pandemic hit us all, topsy-turvy for really everybody. And so we had a website and we had Facebook, we had lots of things, but we really kind of popped the hood up on this thing and really supercharged it up. That our website, we really enhanced it. We really upgraded it because it's really going to be the hub and portal for all our efforts. And it's very important that we have a platform that would accommodate all these virtual sessions that are going on now, but accommodate all the work, accommodate the surveying. So please visit it. I keep saying it a lot, but there's a lot of information, and we are going to be updating it. We are constantly tweaking it, constantly refining it. Hey, and if you're really social media savvy here, we got hashtags on the bottom, and you can Instagram and tweet us and everything.
So Brian, I just want to pause here and ask, well, I want to admit that we understand that going totally online is not the best. It's not the ultimate. And so we are trying to pair that as best we can with some, as alluded to, some outdoor meetings and other survey instruments. But to the extent that we could use anybody's help in helping get the word out, that there's a lot of information available online currently. And then can I just see a show of hands? Has anybody gone on to the website? Has anybody on this actually visit the website? Okay. All right, great. Now I charge you to please share that with others.
Yeah,
Take
go
a
to
survey
it.
on there and share it.
And our Facebook page. But yeah, the website is really the hub of everything. And the website is actually set up so that it's viewable on your phone and everything, right? So it is a fully compatible. What we didn't stop working. So after these the interviews and everything we heard, we were really kind of following up an analysis as urban planners and talking and really summarizing everything we heard. And we also summarized it graphically into a series of diagrams about what we heard about connections, about Jackson Street Art Walk, about safety on College Avenue, about the historic grid, about these green spaces, the lack of connection, the development opportunities, where things might go. So with that, there's a lot of kind of, and I'm not going to go through them for the sake of just brevity, but if you look on the side, lots of these kind of topics and ideas started coming to, and we started summarizing them. And then next slide. And then, we continued working as urban planners, urban designers, and really kind of taking it to the next step of, and then distilling it, how this starts to inform us about what might happen. What we heard. And with that, some key themes emerged. And those key themes are the sessions that we've been doing. We had 2 yesterdays on complete streets and open space. And today we're exploring the civic parcels. At noon, we have the transportation and transit. And then this evening, sustainability. And tomorrow we have Artlets, which is really exploring arts and cultural and history in the neighborhood. And then we have a wrap up tomorrow. But these themes emerged in these analyses and led us to these sessions. So these sessions aren't random. It's part of a whole holistic process. Next slide. And so with that, we've also, we have been putting pen to paper and just, these are just the throw on the wall and see what sticks ideas. It's just the what ifs, the thinking about things and trying to put things, and they're messy and they're fun. This is the making the sausage, right? So you're seeing kind of the, and some of these are mine, some of them are different from the teams, and it's a running joke about my handwriting, but next slide. We took some of those and started cleaning things up and started looking at, again, these are just big ideas, and they're not they're not exclusive. They're not the proposed or anything, but just some things that started coming up. And we've already gotten some great comments yesterday about some of these, but the idea of maybe north-south connections and these central lawns. We heard some comments yesterday about, hey, we need to have even smaller green spaces and intersperse them, little pocket parks even more. But also safety across College Avenue kept coming up yesterday. But also the connections of how do we link this so that this neighborhood becomes an extension of downtown.
Brian, I see a lot of I see a lot of folks squinting into the screen. Is there any way to make this bigger or direct folks to make sure you're in full screen mode? And then also recognize that this will be available, the PowerPoint itself we're looking at, but I just want to see a lot of folks leaning in real close.
I believe it is full screen. I'm not, you know, I'm not controlling the slides, but I believe it's full screen. You know, again, it depends on how people are viewing it. To that end, as you're saying, we are going to post not only this recording, but we will post the presentation so that in a PDF format so that people can go back and look at these. Remember, these are just what ifs though, big ideas. We're throwing things on the wall. And I can tell you, not everything here is going to stick. And there's probably going to be bits and pieces from everything that come together. But we'll make sure that it's out there if people have a hard time. But I mean, any questions right now? I mean, you can either kind of raise your hand and speak up, or leave a question or any kind of comments, or I know it's early. It's earlier for me than you guys. So,
feel free to just take a minute though. I mean, there are two different what ifs presented here. And I think that
and really one of the key things that came out of yesterday is we needed to disperse the idea of it's not to do away with bigger spaces, but to integrate smaller spaces as well. And also, you know, that there's a need for playgrounds in the Bethel Village, but not to kind of abandon the Lay Park playground, because we do understand that serves a lot of other program needs as well. And there's stuff going on in Jackson Street that we're going to talk about this morning.
I would like to add something.
please do.
This is Laura Allen. Can I add?
Yes.
Sure.
I work at Bethel Homes. I'm the resident coordinator. We have lots of children down there, and I feel like we need areas for the children that they can stay at the Bethel property, like small little bike areas where they can feel safe. I think it's very important that we have some smaller areas at Bethel. I work very closely with Lay Park. They're amazing. I don't want to take anything away from them there, but we do need some stuff where the smaller children can be outside with their bikes. That would be something that like an area for children for their bikes that they feel comfortable.
Basically, what I hear you saying, Laura, is let's, and this came up yesterday, which is let's not duplicate what's at Lake Park. Let's make sure that we're providing complementary outdoor spaces for folks and services for folks, but not always having to have children cross college to get to those resources.
You have smaller parents that want to be able to at least, you know, like when we have our kids outside, that you can say, okay, to stay right here and play outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't feel like in any of our properties that we have like a designated area, just a small area that goes around a circle that the kids can ride their bikes safely, not in
Like
the
a
street.
Yeah.
Yes. And they
Yeah,
love
keep them
their
out of the
bikes.
parking.
Yes, they love their bikes. I've been working with Athens Bikes, getting their bikes fixed for them. And, you know, they love their scooters. I mean, a lot of the bike trails, they can't have scooters. They can't have skateboards, you know what I mean? Like something in that capacity. Also, moving forward, when we're doing the designing, are we going to make sure that we, since COVID is here, that like when we do the computer rooms and stuff like that, that things might be more spread out going forward in some of our designing?
I think that's a reality in everything these days that we're all taking into account. You're right. More outdoor spaces, more spread out. You know, outdoor spaces are becoming more and more of an emphasis because it's just safer being outside. Things are dispersed more in outdoor environment. But I really, really appreciate your comments because they echo and elaborate on some of the ones we heard yesterday. And so,
Can I add one more thing too, and then I'll stop talking?
Certainly.
When
no.
we're doing, okay, I'm sorry, because I do ask a lot of questions. I am very engaged with my residents
Perfect.
there, and sometimes at Bethel, they just, you know, they feel more comfortable talking one-on-one to someone they know, like myself or Latasha, not someone that they don't really know and doesn't know them. So that's what you get. Also, since we're doing a lot of the green areas, I've been able to go around to a lot of the other, like the homeless shelter with Latasha and some other folks. Can we have an area outside where people can wash their hands? The kids can wash their hands. I think it's important that these kids can wash their hands outside and maybe get water, you know what I'm saying? Because they are outside, you know what I mean, a lot.
That's a really good, that's a good point. So I'm gonna just, in the interest of time, there's something,
Well,
I want to make
well-
sure, Brian, I want to make sure that we move on and that we can get to the civic, since we do have a lot of folks related to that. If you do have any further comments, anybody, not just Laura, you can always email us. And again, there'll be a function, a chat function or a discussion box function on the website when these get posted. So if you're reviewing and you're like, slide 14 and you want to talk to us about it, we can do it right there as well. So Brian, if we'll move on to the civic.
Yeah. And so again, those comments that are coming in on the side, drop things in there. We are recording that and we are reviewing that, and we will get, if somebody wants follow up. This is where our special section, we're going to really be looking at sort of the civic parcels, because there's a lot of opportunities. And the reason we have a lot of our guests on here is I really want to get insights about what's going on, because our ultimate goal, we're master planning this whole area, but we want to leverage all the initiatives, the other projects. We're going to leverage everything that's going on. We're not here to reinvent or put a monkey wrench in things. We want to incorporate things, and so that we have, but in the end, we will have a holistic master plan for the area. So the better we can understand what's going on, the better the master plan will be. We might throw out ideas, and somebody might say, hey, no, something else is intended, and that is fine. That is fine. This is still the what if. So our guest, Brad, David, Blaine, Mark, hey guys, please feel free to chime in, and we may direct specific comments at you, Christina or myself. We go to the next slide. So with that, we're brainstorming for the whole area. We are more intently master planning the communities, but the connections and what happens in the other area are very important, especially as this moves into the approving the master plan and a zoning change for the area. There's a lot of things that are going to be set in motion. And so there's a lot of things going on, like what might happen to the planning department building. We know that we've been told the planning department is going to move, and then you have a building, a land, you have things, opportunities. And so we are in the what if, we're in the, hey, brainstorming phase. Next slide. So with this, we've identified, and again, if we miss one or we included something that shouldn't be, please tell us. We've identified 5 areas that we're going to talk about this morning. So the first one is the fire hall, the fire department block. We've heard over and over again from the community, they really kind of think of that as this community center. The kids cross and hang out with the firemen and talk to them, and like to buy snacks there. There's land there that might be incorporated into other aspects. There may be a renovation or a way to create some a unique civic and fire department facility. There's also the planning department building at Dougherty and Lumpkin. So that sits on a really prominent spot on Dougherty. And the running joke here, and then Christina even had a little poll at one time, is how many times I don't say Dougherty right. So I was practicing with my kids last night on that, about hopefully by the end of the study, I'm going to have my Georgia accent down. But, and the third site we think is important there is Dougherty and Jackson. That is a real gateway into, as you come down, and we know the art walk is planned on Jackson Street. How do we incorporate that? But there's also, that is a really great development opportunity for creating a mixed use and an urban feel along Dougherty. And then also Dougherty and College, which is kind of the main gateway to this community at College, and it's these prime locations. We know there are things that are planned there, a hotel expansion or innovation centers, other things that have been talked about. We hope to explore some of that today, but we also want to just point out that that is a gateway, That offers incredible mixed use and urban opportunities along Dougherty. And then Lay Park. There may be some ways to both in the Jackson Street Art Walk, the redone, but there's ways to incorporate additional items, but also there's some additional land that maybe be more natural or conservation or other kind of ideas. So the next one, the first one, again, is the fire department, which is bounded by, College to the west, Jackson to the east, Hoyt to the north, and Madison to the south. So it's a block. And it's very important, and we understand that it's there for a specific reason and serving downtown, but we've also heard that it's actually a sort of community focal point, and that maybe there are plans for, we've heard there's thoughts of renovation, expansion, lots of things. We just want to throw out the possibility of perhaps incorporating some public gathering spaces or plaza or other civic functions in that, as well as the arts and cultural aspect. And you go to the next slide. This is the panoramic kind of looking north over Madison. And you can see how the building sits, and there's a parking lot, but parking may be able to be incorporated in some other manners. Remember, if we really kind of put our thinking caps on and our what ifs, we also have land over there on Jackson. Next. And so kind of, if you look at that, and next slide too. So there may be ways of accommodating expansions that then can accommodate other functions. And I just want to throw out the next slide of just some examples of fire stations that also around the country that have civic and other function to them. So it's just kind of thinking about a little bit outside the box, but we've heard that it's a real focal point, but it also sits at a crucial point in the neighborhood, and it's got great College Avenue frontage, and it's got great Jackson Street frontage. And so there may be opportunities in kind of expansion or renovation.
I'd like to pause for a second.
Up for discussion.
I'd like to ask if anybody has experienced a fire station that's also kind of doubling in its efforts. I personally haven't, so that's why I'm wondering if.
Well,
I hear Mark is chiming in and saying we're open to discussions. So Mark, if you want to unmute yourself and just tell us more. I mean, one of the concerns we brought up was, we want to make sure that the primary use of this is for safety.
Exactly. No, nobody's going to question that, right? I mean, that is the primary use. However, they also represent a just icon in the community.
Athens has done a good job with their fire stations, so this is a great opportunity, and the terrain works well as well, with College being a much lower street than the main level of the fire station. So you could literally, if you needed to, you could replace the parking, put it on the roof, and have space all along College Avenue there that could be community space or whatever. And
that's a great
still
idea.
Get access, easy access to parking. Could be a combination.
I agree with him, definitely.
So Brian, an interesting fact about all of our fire halls is our new fire halls is that we've incorporated community spaces in all new fire halls in Athens.
This is a good opportunity with College Street being such a main street in the city. The fact that it could open out, whatever you built there could open onto College, and could be a win-win for everybody. The fire department would win, and the community would win. It would address the Bethel redevelopment well as well.
Yeah, well, I think we agree as well. And just it's related to this, but one thing that's come up is the idea that people from Bethel, when they use Lay Park and other, people cross at many different points along there. It's not just Hoyt, and it's not just Madison, not just Strong. And in some ways, we feel that maybe making Madison more the front door of that may be a way, because Hoyt has some real problems being at the bottom of a hill in traffic, and Madison. And so that would put more prominence on this corner, that Madison is sort of that Madison and College could become really important. But you know, if you just physically look at it, there's a lot of land there. There's a lot of
Yeah.
opportunity.
So can we go through some ideas of what that might look like? Yeah.
I
And
think
there's
there's
some
a
other
real
things that
opportunity.
sort of
I think there's a
urban-
real opportunity here to integrate, you know, outdoor, physical kind of activities, whether it's, you know, basketball, kind of the ninja courses, stuff like that, that the kids like, but also the firemen, you know, when they're there during the day. Like, I feel like that we'd be missing an opportunity if we didn't try to create a space like that for these public safety officials, particularly given the environment we're in today, to be interacting and integrating kind of on a daily basis with kids that are coming over there on the outside, whether it's playing basketball with them, you know, helping them run a ropes course, something like that.
That's a great idea.
This is valuable property, right? But that's a very, to me, that's one of the most valuable things we can do today is, you know, try to, you know, restore as much trust and faith as we can into these public safety officers, you know, from, you know, this, in this particular case, people who may feel a little disenfranchised at times, you know, with that. So I think that, you know, the more interaction we can kind of force between the residents and those officials, and, you know, I'm sure our police station is not too far away, you know, and that could be another opportunity for that to happen, and to really help make those kids feel safe, you know, trusting and going to.
It's a win-win, like you said.
Yeah,
It's a
trusting and
win-win.
going to those officers. So, you know, if you move that fire station, like you said, Brian, to the other side where maybe the front, you know, the main front there is there, and you got an opportunity for a 2-story building to pick up some space, which is expensive because you got fire trucks and probably parking on top of space. But, you know, you're going to pick up a lot of area where the existing fire station is now that could be used as a, you know, that kind of outdoor green space, outdoor training facility for the firemen.
I would
We
like
had
to
David.
see,
I'm sorry. We had David raise his hand.
Sure.
Yeah.
How much of a blank space are we, do we need to think about this planning area? Is there anything sacred about the fire department being on that specific site, or can it be moved, since we're talking about redesigning it anyway, can it be moved into a different part of the campus, still serve its public safety function for that area, but maybe free this property up for some different use? I mean, this is a great spine between the bulk of the planning area into the Linden House and Lay Park, and maybe the fire department could be better served and the community's public safety could be better served if this was in a different area of the campus, especially in light of what John said, that we need to integrate our public safety officials more into the daily lives of our citizenry. Maybe this area doesn't serve that function.
David, that's
But I think
a
that's
great point,
You
David.
guys
And-
tell us.
Need to stay in the same place? Are we free to imagine a completely new north downtown where we can put these boxes wherever we want?
Let me throw this out too, David. And I think you were on the commission when 5 Points was done, right? Or
Well, that was sort of. I overlapped that.
do you remember the option of having a public-private venture on that particular piece of property where that fire station got a lot bigger and there was commercial space that served 5 Points and stuff like that? I mean,
That was a radical idea at the time, but not so much now. I think it's
do that. Yeah, I mean, exactly. And I think that, you know, a lot of this is getting into kind of the private sector mentality, but, you know, a lot of times when, and this is already a fire station, so it wasn't as much. That particular piece of property was taken off the tax roll. It was a very valuable piece of property. A lot of pushback on that side of it too. But, you know, in this case, we've got a piece of property that's not on the tax rolls. That it's a city block. There's plenty of room to put a fire station, an outdoor area, and commercial office, actual true space, whether that's through a public-private partnership or whether it's something that the city, you know, does through the course of the redevelopment and then, you know, kind of pushes out into the private sector one way or another. But like This is very underutilized piece of property. So whether it stays or whether it moves somewhere else, I think you could do either one of those.
So
Well,
I want to bring it, oh, go ahead, Brad.
I was just, I mean, I think that David's initial point about the open box and is it on the table to move it completely? I mean, we've got a fire station functioning here that in order for these guys to go north, they got to go south first. You cannot go north on College Avenue out of this fire station to serve that part of the county because of the restrictions on the railroad. They can't get under it. So
That's true.
That was a reason. I think that, I don't know what is the service area for the station? Because I think I heard that that's a necessary for them to stay on this side of the railroad because of that, because they serve downtown.
I recall that as well, that this was the downtown station, and that they really couldn't move any more north because of that train tracks. But yeah, we're asking you guys, so we want to know what the possibilities are. And I agree with everything that's said. Either it is a great piece of land, and even if it's only part of the block, it's still a great piece of land, right?
So I want to frame it as some options. It sounds like we do need to determine very clearly, and I know we keep coming back to this, Brian, but does the fire station need to remain here in its existing building? That's one question. Does the fire station need to remain here on this block, maybe moved and integrated into something larger? And I think that everybody agrees that regardless of if the fire station stays, if it moves and there's an entire block for redevelopment, or if it just shifts to one side or the other or gets reoriented in some way on this block, that everybody would like to see some type of mixed use. And I think that for tax-based purposes, there's some interest in that being some kind of mixed use, retail or whatnot. But there's also a big push on the table for making sure that there's some type of common space that serves the firemen there, as well as the surrounding neighborhood. I just want to offer this, that in yesterday's discussion, the Jackson Street Art Walk, there was a lot of talk of playground location and making sure that that continues to tie into Lay Park for their functions. And there was a lot of interest in creating common spaces where people will be, again, not just residents of Bethel, but the entire community being able to have contact with public service. I like the discussion, but I do want to do a time check.
This is Rick Parker. I think we're really looking at three options. One, do you redevelop on the existing site? Do you move it somewhere else in the developable footprint of this area that we're getting ready to construct in? Or is there a site somewhere that would meet the needs of the fire department and the community that's not on the developable footprint or on its current site?
Rick, we had a comment on the
really
chat.
Three options that we've got to look at here.
So Rick, we had a chat. I want to read the chat. Mark has stated that in order to keep the ISO rating, they need to stay in this area, and that means south of the tracks for response times.
But that doesn't mean there's not another area south of the tracks. I really, like I said, I think there are three options as I hear everybody discussing. Three big options, and they could go any of those three. We just need to explore them all.
Rick,
there's some great comments in the chat, by the way.
Can I jump in with a comment? This is John Weil. I agree that those are three good options. However, I think we have to look at the big picture when it comes to resources. There are so many things, so many opportunities in here to do things. In my experience, I'm an architect and planner myself, and in my experience, this is the city is going to need to invest in itself to do certain things. The city is the catalyst here. So, building spaces, community spaces, and things like that, all that has to be taken in consideration. And I can see a number of other places I would invest money that would not require moving. There are things that need to be invested in here to make all of this work. And I think the opportunity with the fire station is to develop the land, because you have so much land available around the station, that you can add to the property without having to go to the expense of relocating it if it does in fact work. So I think I would invest the money in other places rather than try and relocate the fire station.
So John, I want to echo that and mention the chat, the chat function that's happening right now, the chat. Yes, I do believe that there was a fire station, and maybe Buck, you could explain it a little better, but it didn't pass for additional funding here. So it wasn't ever in SPLOST. And I think that you're right, John, you're bringing up that there's a cost to the city for moving it. And so that's something to really hammer on, and it's something for, us all to consider.
I think this is a very important discussion. I think it may warrant us continuing it kind of after these sessions, and we may need to have a special workshop or special meeting just on this fire station, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of what ifs, and us just getting a grip on the possibilities.
So might I just suggest this to move this along, Brian? I think that's a good one. I will probably just reach out to the folks that are on this call, and if anybody wants to continue diving into the fire station specifically, we'll do so, and we'll have a little more time for just that fire station.
Totally agree. Totally.
And you can ignore me if you don't want to participate in that conversation, if you're here to talk about the planning building.
I do want to echo what John said, and I kind of agree that I think it's a great opportunity to just, for the outreach, integrate public safety into the community for that interaction of people, and it's a win-win. But how we do that, how we use that land, again, we've dove into that. So for the sake of continuing on, the other kind of big thing that we do know that we've heard about is the planning building, Dougherty and Lumpkin. Again, that is a really key point. And it offers lots and lots of opportunities. It's also another one of, do you renovate it or do you redevelop it, or a combination of both? So, next slide. So you can see.
I want to point out, I'm so sorry, I want to point out one of the chats before I forget that came in earlier, which was that it was one of the first integrated libraries.
The fire station, I saw that. Yep.
No, the planning department was one of the first integrated public libraries.
Okay.
So there was a conversation about preservation versus demolition happening on the chat. I also learned that there's a moon tree there. Is that correct? Right.
There is.
Okay.
There's a what?
A moon tree.
Went around to the moon.
John, that's exactly what my face was when I think Buck sent me the article. I was like, a what?
So evidently there was the pine tree that's in front of the planning department. The seed for that tree went to the moon and back and was planted at that location several years ago.
Wow.
Apollo 16, I think.
Yeah.
Well, hey, those are great. Again, that's what we want. That's what we're learning here. I will say, urbanistically, you look at that corner of Lumpkin and Dougherty, it's not prominent. I mean, it is, the building is low. It doesn't hold an edge. It's pushed back. You can also just see on the picture on the left that there's additional where the parking is. Again, if we're thinking about the what ifs of what could happen, there may be redevelopment potential here, or renovation potential, or a combination, which is probably what's likely. Next slide. So again, just some of that. Hey, if you just kept it, what's around it? How can we wrap it? And if we bring Strong Street through, which is something that's come up over and over again about establishing the historic grid, putting the grid pattern back in, you can see that then also that makes this a three-sided piece of land. It makes it more valuable. We have another frontage down there. So the next slide, I just have some examples of, hey, these are integration of civic and mixed use and spaces that I found. Some just interesting community spaces, commercial. There's a way to kind of integrate these. There's another one, Zoe. Oh, maybe not. That was it. So go back to the image so that we can kind of talk. So again, we're opening up. We want to know what updates on what are being planned, if there's things in motion that we don't know about. All of that, opening it up for discussion here. But we think it's a great resource and a great location.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask a question.
The fire station, I mean, yeah, I understand there's some historical significance here, and you know, we may need to preserve some or all of it, but you know, echoing what Brian said, I mean, it's an incredibly underutilized site for this location next to downtown.
I agree with
So-
And David, you know, had kind of a similar situation with the old fire hall in the Classic Center, right?
I agree with John. This is in terms of integrating the new planning area with the existing downtown. This is really the critical piece. It sits on the top of the hill. This area, Dougherty Street, since the 70s, has been really the back door to downtown in terms of parking lots and setbacks. If we want to truly bring in this planning area into the urban fabric of downtown, something really special has to happen here. And that can be through redevelopment, using the existing building. Brad and myself were one of the first group of planning employees to work in this building back in the early 90s. So I have a lot of affection for this building, but at the same time, it's sitting on the top of the hill like that, directly across from downtown. I think it's a real opportunity here to build in green space or development that fronts Dougherty Street in a more urban way.
So
I'm hearing.
I'm sorry, does anybody know the answer? I mean, I saw the comments about the integrated public library, which obviously is very significant, but does anybody know the answer to what portion of this building was actually that piece? Was there it looks like from the aerial, this building's been added onto multiple times. I'm sure this in the original footprint. Do we know what the original is? And then do we think that there's any possibility that that original footprint could become a public library again for this community in that area, since it's not super
Or reused in some capacity.
Yeah,
that's
reused.
exactly. Yeah. So Ellen, do you know, I think you were the one who brought up that particular historical point.
I don't know about the development beyond the original building. I don't know when it was added on to. I just know that it was completed, I believe, you know, after the big urban renewal of this area, and it was completed in the early 70s, the original building. And at the time, there was still an African-American library called the Dunbar Library. And this building was the first integrated public library in 1972. They let African-Americans patronize it. But I don't know about the physical structure.
Okay, and then can I also ask for those talking moon tree, was there, can somebody show me where that is on the site?
It's, if you're looking at it right there, the one tall tree that's sticking up out of the parking lot to the west of the building, to the right side, that's it.
So
Okay,
between
well, that's
the
probably a
building
good spot
and
That
AME?
one. Yeah, right there.
That's probably a good place that can be saved, being on the edge like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have never, I mean, the building certainly looks like it's been added on to. I've never heard that in terms of when an expansion may have occurred. I'd always heard that what is the downstairs or right now functioning as public works was basically, you know, shipping, receiving, storage, all of those things, and the upstairs was the library. There are some plans, I think maybe over at the inspection department still somewhere. We've got them on Laserfish of the original building plans for that library when it was built.
Can you send, or can you, Brad, can you help me get that?
Yeah, I can see what I can find with that. I agree with David. You know, I mean, personally, I think this is a super cool building and I would hate to see it go away, but I mean, I kind of view this Lumpkin Street, Dougherty Street, you know, entrance into the overall development is really having the opportunity as the primary gateway into it. You're going right down into the heart of it off of Lumpkin Street, which is going to be your primary north-south or north, you know, up to Broad and then north all the way. But you know, it does not serve as an entry by saving that building unless there was a way to retain it. And I agree with, you know, if you look at Dougherty Street, especially the north side of Dougherty, really all the way from Thomas down to Pulaski, or at least to Hall, I mean, it is, you know, there is no street engagement with anything on that street from one end to the other. I mean, even down at the Foundry, you're looking at the back wall of you know, hotel rooms and all the way up. So it really, largely with the exception of the attorney's offices and the Welcome Center, all of Dougherty, everything on it has its back turned from Thomas to at least Hull Street, and then you pick up Denny Towers and the church, but other than that, there's really nothing else on the south side either. I think whatever we do has to engage the street.
Can I also, I think you're right, Brad, and I also just want to make a note, Brian, because I see you taking notes, is making sure, I know we've reached out to Pastor Hart a few times, but making sure that First AME is in this conversation as we continue talking about planning department parcel. Did they have expansion plans, or what? We need to talk to them about parking and all the good things.
I engaged them very early on and sat down with the pastor and the chair of their board from the very start. And the biggest single thing that they told me that was on their wish list was some way to generate additional parking that would be accessible during Sundays and other times for the church. They're very landlocked, and if you look to the right of their building, they have a tiny parking lot. And so in my conversations with them, that's been the biggest single thing that they've been concerned about. But we remain engaged with them and will continue to do so.
And I'd also talk to them a little bit about, you know, they also have the fellowship hall, and it's used outside of Sundays as well. So that peak is not the typical just Sunday peak parking. Sorry, Brent.
Yeah, I think whatever we do, we've got to be sensitive to them with redevelopment of it. But you know that, you know, since at least the 90s, and I don't know if it was that way when it was the library too, it may have very well been, but I mean, our parking lot effectively serves as their parking lot on the weekends. And, you know, historically, if there is a funeral, if there is some type of special event during the week, you know, our parking lot gets filled up with people going to the funeral. We've never really said anything about it. We've gotten along fine through the years, but to lose that parking lot for them will be a significant impact.
I was going to mention that. I think there's some ways that we can have shared relationships, good neighbors, kind of like you said.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to go carry on a little bit. Just we're pushing up against our time, and I'm going to go through these kind of quick. Although I do, there's some a lot of insights we need.
It sounds like we may need to have some follow-up calls, so we'll probably just keep this conversation going.
Yeah.
Further on all of these.
Dougherty and Jackson Street. So again, as you're coming southwest on Dougherty, this is a prominent point too, and it starts to set your feel, like we were saying, for the whole urban edge. However, we know. So with that, I think it's also a very important and highly visible development opportunity. We know there are Jackson Street initiatives in place, and those fully support and want to be incorporated into it. But we don't want to sort of squander maybe the opportunity to help create an edge there and start this urban feel with great mixed use opportunities. This is also a really neat site. So next slide. And this is a panoramic, so it's a little curved and weird, but to the left is Linden House, and then you're looking up at Dougherty and downtown to the right. You can see it's already got great trees that are there that can be reincorporated. Indigo is off to the right. Next slide. And I just want to show you, this is what we were provided in terms of the proposed Jackson Street Art Walk, the concept vision. So downtown, north is to the right. So downtown is to the right, Linden House is to the left. But you can see how even incorporating the art walk ideas and the promenade, which we think is a great idea. And we second that notion that Jackson and Dougherty is a gateway. We still think there is a great development opportunity there. And so
hey,
we
Brian,
want to just open this.
Mark
discussion up.
noted, I'm so sorry, Mark noted, that is the fire department's exit from the station.
I was about to say the same thing too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't. Well, I don't think anybody is thinking of closing Jackson, right?
No, but
That
Is this Art Walk a street or is it the pedestrian plaza?
I believe it's a. Well, when I look at it again, we did not do this, so I mean, this was provided to us. We were just incorporating it.
What
When I
their
view it, to me, it is a street with paving in it. And what they do is Hoyt is being removed and doesn't continue down. Jackson Street comes, turns around at Hoyt, and then essentially Madison continues into their parking lot. And the parking is pushed up against the Foundry there, the Lay Park.
Brian, maybe
Again,
I can kind of explain
I
a
don't
little
want
bit
to
about
advocate
this.
or argue for this. I did not develop it. We're incorporating it
What you got, Buck?
because it's an initiative underway.
Yeah, Brian, just for a second. So the Jackson Street Art Walk is part of the SPLOS program, and it is envisioned, John, to be multi-use. So there'd be vehicular access, but there would also be opportunities to close the street for public events.
Yes, so if that were the case, then the fire would have to exit a different way because you wouldn't ever be able to close that street if that was their access out.
Correct.
Well,
Yes, sir.
perhaps they would just close from Madison to Hoyt. You know, I think you would probably never be able to close from Madison to Dougherty, right? Just for that reason.
Mark, is there?
Or as we're exploring the redevelopment of the fire station parcel, though, this is something to consider is the exit.
Yeah.
Can I just mention something real quick? It's a
Please.
project from the Athens Cultural Affairs Commission, and they spoke heavily with the fire department about it and are looking to find ways to have fire trucks be able to come out into that corner. I also saw a design where the corner of Jackson and Hoyt is actually a bit of a larger turnaround area that would allow trucks to come out either onto Jackson and then turn down to Hoyt, or to come out and then go down Madison. So there was some of that discussion going on, but I can put you in contact with Helen Kirkendall, who is with the Athens Cultural Affairs Commission, if you'd like a little bit more information from her about that.
Yes,
She was on one of our calls, two of our calls last night. So I met
Okay.
Helen.
Yeah, she might be there tomorrow as well. I'll probably be there tomorrow morning for the art portion. I think
I met her. I met her virtually, right?
Yeah.
But,
Thanks, Mark.
I think what we just want to raise here is that there are ways to incorporate the Jackson Street Art Walk and all that and still have a very prominent development opportunity that could offer mixed use, could offer a variety of mixed use. And so from a master planning point, that is what we are showing. We are fully supportive of whatever the community comes up in terms of the Jackson Street Art Walk. And we just wanted to, like this, learn any more additional details on this. So let's go on to the next one. Just to, so College and Dougherty, two kind of blocks here. And we've heard lots of things already being discussed about that in terms of, the next one, Zoe. Well, that's the view. I thought I had one, but we've heard of the Indigo expansion, and we've heard discussions of the Innovation Center and the Technology Center here. So there's lots of things that we've just been made briefly aware of, and we don't know kind of where things are in play. Next slide, Zoe. So, you know, again, we've heard about a future creative campus, Innovation Center, Indigo Hotel expansion. Back up. Stay here for a second. So this is, again, two prominent blocks that are a gateway down College and very important. So we want to just offer this up for discussion or insight. What's going on with this? Again, understand, and some of the really sketchy things we saw, to me, didn't seem to really establish an urban edge on Dougherty. So these are very prominent parcels.
Have you guys been given any, you've said a couple times that you have heard about the Future Creative Innovation Center. Do you have anyone who's giving you real information about that? And
Not per
who is
se.
that? Is it city? Is it UGA? Who's supposed to be giving you that information? Do you know?
Are you
Well,
talking
that's
about in
part
front
of
of
the
the,
school.
are we talking about in front of the hotel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can tell you that the commission went down the road a little for a little piece, working on a public-private partnership in that location, since that's city-owned land. And again, kind of the same situation, you know, what the city would get out of it possibly is the actual innovation center, and then the private development side would have, you know, leasable commercial space. And then that was shelved. I think the folks they were talking with at the time couldn't get it to happen. So that, you know, there were some really quick concept plans and stuff that really would have done exactly what Brad Griffin said, which is start, you know, creating that edge, some plaza space,
That's
you know,
right.
downtown edge. So I think that's a like, again, you know, David Lynn, I'm sure agrees, this is just a fantastic parcel. And since the city owns it, there is leverage and opportunity there to bring in and create a partnership with the private development community that would be a win-win for both.
I want to point out in the chats, we've got a question: does the city own both of these parking lots? And a confirmation that it is owned by the city and managed by the downtown authority.
That's correct.
Both of these parking lots.
Are both of those parcels owned by the city?
That is
Yes.
confirmed by David.
Good.
So John, is what you're saying basically that the ideas that were being talked about for these parcels I don't remember how many years ago that was, that they stayed ideas, that nothing ever actually went further?
No, I mean, they got developed beyond that. I mean, and I don't want to get outside the bounds here of what was going on, you know, for kind of negotiations at a time, but at a big picture, you know, someone was brought to the table. There was an idea of integrating some hotel conference space kind of stuff on the private side with the creative campus kind of innovation, you know, economic development arm for the city. And the private developer would develop their stuff and that, and then the city would end up with, you know, the city would get back, you know, the innovation creative side, almost exactly like what I said in the comments a minute ago with the fire station, where you bring in a private developer gets the opportunity to develop at whatever intensity we decide. But as a part of that deal, you know, basically the city's the same way the downtown parking deck work, where the city actually leases the air rights, and so they maintain ownership of the parcel, and that's good enough for development to occur from a private development standpoint and banking and finance standpoint. So the private development side ends up with a building or buildings, and the public sector gets something out of that. You know, in the case of the downtown parking deck, it was one thing. In the case of the fire station, it could be the fire station. In the case of this, it could be that creative campus portion that would, where the city would be locating their services for that. Now, in this particular case, the deal kind of went away on the private side, not the city side, but the private side, because I think some tax credits and stuff didn't come through, and the dollars just weren't working, you know, at that moment. So, but
okay, that's really good to know. But basically, what you're saying is that like there aren't current active plans underway, but okay, so this is still pretty open. Thanks for that clarification.
This is another one of those parcels too, in my opinion, that you know, the redevelopment of it, especially with Indigo sitting where it's at. I mean, there is going to be a lot of pressure from the development side to try to close that section of street, I'm afraid. And we may be indifferent on that. I have strong personal concerns. I really don't want to see Strong Street closed from Jackson over to College, but based on the configuration of that lot, it makes a lot of sense on the development side and opens up a lot of opportunities to look at doing it. Something we just need to be aware of.
Well, and when we were looking at that parcel on the private development side, I think we had come to grips with the fact that Strong Street had to be open in some manner, where it was passable, maybe not everyday traffic passable, but passable either, for emergency services vehicles or whatever.
Historically, oops, sorry to hear that feedback. Historically, that was part of the major kind of business avenue, right? Strong all the way through?
Yes.
Well, we're going back and putting in a historic grid, and so closing it,
yeah, it's kind of weird if you're using it as a cross point. I mean,
right? And we're closing.
I don't think there's any.
I think there may be some ways to bridge it, and
yeah, I don't think there's any reason to even assume that Strong Street needs to be closed for the development of that parcel. I'm in agreement with Brad. What we were looking at before, was connected physically to the existing hotel. So that was the reason. I mean, if in the course of the public-private partnership of the development, this building ends up being, office space, wet lab space, research space, creative center, and all that. I mean, there's no reason necessarily for a physical connection to the hotel beyond just the normal pedestrian connection interaction with the street. So,
I think again, we've run over our time here, but we just want to echo everything that David, Brad, John. That this is a important site. Lots of opportunities, and I think whatever's done there, we needs to be a positive enhancement of Dougherty and the urban feel there, and I think that can all be accomplished. And turn the corner and start to set College Avenue. That's the crucial thing too. Don't forget that this is the starting point of College into the neighborhood. The last one, and I'm gonna go through this real briefly because it's very limited, and I have some skepticism about what is even possible, but it's just a lay park. There may be some underdeveloped, underutilized pieces of land there. We had community garden. We've already heard lots of comments about maybe that is not the best spot for a community garden because it's actually disassociated and far away from residents. Next slide. Just some of what's going on there, showing you. And you can go to the next one too, Zoe. And so just the art walk again. Obviously, that has a big play in terms of redeveloping what's happening there in the Lake Center. And there may be a way to incorporate some other aspects into here.
You can actually see on that slide where it said Indigo Hotel and Creative Campus Expansion. I think that's from an old slide.
Yeah.
Looking at that.
That was one of the and so I guess perhaps the main thing is just that there is quite a bit of land there to the north that may be a more natural resources, environmental kind of trail or park might be something. Next, and I think the next one is just, hey, we've run over, but we want to make sure, hey, did we miss anything? Are we just way off base? Are there some great ideas? Now's the time to ask it. But however,
you can ask us at any time. A big one that is the one that's on the other side of the railroad tracks there, back next to the river and the where the smokestack is, and that where the current what's it called, Brad?
The charm.
Where the charm facility is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is the back end of this North Avenue downtown. And we've done
on the other side of the rail.
Where are you talking? The other side of CSX?
It's this piece of property against the river.
It actually it's past that property. It's on the north side of Cleveland Avenue, which is just beyond that property.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that really wasn't. Yeah.
That is the anchor to the other end of the north side of downtown.
Brian,
Yes, sir.
It might be wise, given the complexity of each one of these, to sponsor a series of engagements literally on each one of these.
Yeah.
So that we're not trying to do them all at one time. There's something to be said for doing an entire session on fire department, one on planning, one on Dougherty and Jackson. You know, I mean, it seems to me maybe a series of follow-ups to this session would be in order, taking these one at a time so we could really dig into them and then integrating them back into the whole.
And I would echo that 100%. And because I think that, again, I think that the way a lot of this stuff happens, if it is the desire of the mayor and commission, is going to be through some sort of public-private development partnerships. And because that's where the dollars are going to come from to be able to do this. And whatever, if you had one of these for the fire station and you came out with this is what we think it should be. I mean, that's ultimately, again, if the mayor and commission agrees, what's going to go into an RFQ to solicit a private developer to come in and say, we're willing to do this. So the more detailed you can be on each one of these, because I think every one of these is an opportunity for public-private partnership where the city really has a win, huge win from a financial standpoint, tax-based standpoint, redevelopment standpoint for no dollars in.
Yeah, I think we really need to sponsor individual sessions on each one of these, I think.
Do y'all like them this time? You want them later? I can keep doing 8:30.
Well,
Brian probably doesn't like that.
Hey, it's okay. My kid goes to cross-country practice early, so. Hey, well, just for the sake of time, this has been great insight, and I fully agree with Rick that this is a follow-up. Just to remind everybody, we had 2 yesterday. You're in the session today. There's a noon session on transportation and transit, 5 to 6 on sustainability, and then a Saturday morning brunch session on artlets and cultural history. So next slide. Just, hey, remember, I mean, I keep preaching this, but our website, go to it. We think we've really enhanced it. We think it looks really nice, and there's lots and lots of information, and we are still, we're the backyard mechanics. We're still under this saying, jacking it up and working on it and souping up even more. So
are there
I
any
really
final
appreciate this
questions?
opportunity.
Just the most important thing is that you can go to the website and add all kinds of additional comments.
Exactly.
That's what's really important.
When we get these posted, yes. So yesterday's sessions have already been given to the IT team to get posted up there. So hopefully by the time we get to the final session, we've got these running online so folks could go back and look at anything they may have missed. And we'll do a wrap up on Saturday. But yes, there'll be a function in which eventually you can comment on that live on the website. Are there any final wrap up questions or comments before we sign off? Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And again, each of these sessions has been so eye-opening. Great discussions, great comments. So I really appreciate it. And I wish I could be there in person. Hopefully we'll be there soon.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.